Hello and welcome back to the ACSC Podcast. Thank you very much for obviously the support last episode. I would say if you guys haven't seen it, go back and watch it. From a personal point of view, it's a very special episode to both myself and Warren, and anyone who has suffered with mental health side of things as well. It sort of sheds a bit of, I'd say, seriousness, but also makes a bit of a comedy side of it, which does need to come involved as well. So definitely check it out. But to this episode, recurring guest is back again compared to his first one. He's back after about 4 episodes instead of the last one. It's Mr. Tom Jones is back.
Hello.
I was just a quick mention before, if you haven't obviously checked out his socials, please do. He's doing a giveaway at 250 followers. I think you're nearly there now and you're not far off.
Yeah, so I was on 180 when I posted it, and now I'm on about 205, 206. So get following. The prize is going to be quite big. And obviously, thank the support. It'd be great to give something back.
Brilliant. And obviously, the usual co-host Warren is back as well for this episode. So I think this episode is going to be a bit of a controversial one. I think we're going to probably say some things that people are not going to agree with, but I think that's the whole point of this conversation is VAR. I think it's a thing that's been brought up a lot after, I'll say, definitely last round fixtures of Premier League. So we're sort of talking about some of the main talking points was obviously Thomas Soucek's incident, which was, I don't know if you guys have actually seen the incident. I'm guessing you have.
I have.
Yeah, I've seen it too.
So obviously it looks like this fact is, obviously there was, I'll say, I don't know if it's the intention, but obviously his arm's gone out. Looks like he struck Mitrovic. Mitrovic has gone to the ground, which is expected. Obviously the first initial sending off. But looking at the replay of VAR, it should not have been a red. Incident comes up, Mike Dean is involved and has sent him off, and that's opened up a whole can of worms. As now Mike Dean's been receiving death threats, which I would say personally I don't think should happen at all. I don't endorse things like that. That's taking it too far in context, and no one deserves that. But he's obviously now asked to sit out of this, and it sort of opens up is VAR is meant to sort of be this safety, but is it more causing more issues for referees at the moment?
Oh, do you want me to start?
It would be wonderful.
Going back to the incident, what I saw of it is it's a bit of a close call. I wouldn't say it is a red, but obviously when he's gone to pull his arm up, it looks like he's trying to get his arm out of the way. But like with any player, they're gonna. I think one of their special skills is acting with quite a lot of it. But it's with VAR when it first come out. Obviously, I saw it when it was in. I think one of the first ones was Australia.
Yeah.
And it seemed to work absolutely perfectly, but I was well up for it when it came to the Prem, but completely changed my mind on it now. It's especially for me being a Liverpool fan, you've seen how can your armpit be offside?
Don't start with decisions of VAR at the moment, because I think the last 2 weeks as an Arsenal fan, it's been probably the most painful 2 weeks of decisions.
Massively. It is.
I think there's another decision we can also mention there is obviously Bednarik got sent off against United for the exact same thing that happened with David Luiz.
There's such an agenda against them, isn't there?
Yeah. Well, I think I was speaking to my dad about this. He's an Arsenal fan as well. And I said, I think the problem with David Luiz is he's got that reputation. It's so easy to send him off. And I've seen a lot of reports as well. So obviously the Arsenal players were very quick on social media to slag off the decisions, and that apparently was the people internally saying the FA looked at that and sort of went, we're not going to overturn it for that. I highly doubt it because the FA have to be professional sort of things, but like you said, there seems to be an agenda against players like that now.
Yeah, I mean, I think I do genuinely believe, and it's sad to say this, but had it have been a different Arsenal player, for example, I don't know, Tierney, Cedric, I know Tierney wasn't playing, Cedric or someone like that, yeah. I think the decision would have been overturned. If you actually look at the incidents for Bednarik and David Luiz, they're not too dissimilar. I'm not saying they're the same, but they're not too dissimilar. The same sort of attempt for the ball is made. And obviously, Southampton get their centre-back back. I mean, I think it's a blessing in disguise for Arsenal at the moment. But the thing that the thing that sort of drives everyone insane is that the idea of VAR is to give a definitive decision for when a referee isn't sure of what to do. Now, it seems to be at the minute that the referees can use that now as a scapegoat to influence the decision whether they make it right or wrong. For example, the World Cup, where the famous Frank Lampard shot that went over the line, obviously it was way over the line. There's been way closer calls before, and that's been given, but that was a main talking point. Now, obviously, the best instance of VAR there would be to have stopped the game, seen that it had gone over the line, and give England the goal. I'm not saying it would have changed the outcome of the game, but that's the idea. But nowadays, it's coming down to opinion. I'm not sure what the point of the VAR assistant is, because he doesn't tell the referee what to do. He literally just says what he sees, and no one really knows what to do. So everyone just sort of points at the other guy and says, "Yeah, what do you think should happen?"
No, I agree. And I think obviously what you sort of mentioned, the side of it. So just obviously bringing up sort of about Mike Dean, Lee Mason has obviously now been officially demoted from his duties as a referee this weekend. It's interesting that he was the VAR referee for both these incidents. And I think the official cover is he failed to do his simple job as a reviewing it. And I think we've sort of discussed it, that sort of thing as well. I think the way around this is obviously that it's opinion. And obviously we don't get to hear what they're saying as referees. I think personally, from my point of view, I would love to hear what their reason is behind these decisions. They do it in Australia, and I think I watched an MLS game last year, was the highlights where they refereed the mics up on them. I don't see why we couldn't have that type of thing in England. I know you're going to have the stereotypical freaking hard-nut English football fans who's going to sort of look down it instantly, but I think you sort of need to have this technology bringing in and making it work, because we've invested so much money into VAR now to make it work. You can't just give up on it so soon.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously, like we were saying just before we start recording, obviously with the rugby, where you can hear both ref and obviously fourth official on there, and it's, I think, supporters do get a lot more understanding why they're sending them off or they're giving that penalty for that reason, which in football I think would help a lot by doing that. At least with a fan's perspective, they know what's going on and why the referee is actually doing that.
I think even just bringing up the decision on the screen, I know they've been so sort of defiant and they don't want to do that in the grounds, but I can't see why not, because if you can see that decision again on the screens for everyone, it's not they can highlight. I think we like go back to this episode. Me and Tom was sort of saying is these referees are so protected. Is it that they don't want to give any chance for scrutiny of the ref? If you bring it up on the screen, everyone can see it.
Well, the way I look at it is, it happens in loads of other sports. In cricket, you've got Hawkeye. If a batsman edges the ball, there's technology in place which tells you if he's Snicko, yeah. If he's edged the ball or not. Therefore, if he's edged the ball, he is out. Definitive decision, no debate. I've edged it, I'm out. Rugby, if there's a ruck or a maul on the actual try line itself, and the ref can't have a clear view of whether the ball's been put down for a try, it's taken to a video referee. The video referee says either yes, it's over the line, it's a try, no, it's not gone over the line, or it's a bit inconclusive, but still you get a definitive answer. The only sport that it's not working with is football, mainly because the first thing that I think it is that there's not a lot of respect for the officials by the players. If you watch rugby, they're called sir. They apologise if they're out of line. Football, they swear at them, tell them they're useless. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing as well, as I say, is that the idea of the video referee is to tell the official, because they've got the view, they've got all the angles. There's no excuse why they can't give a definitive decision. And in football, I don't know whether it's harder or not, but you can tell whether something's right or wrong. And taking the Souček incident into example, if Mitrovic, the player in question who got struck, if he's saying that it's not a red card, and if he can tell the referee that Souček made the accident, and he still sends him off
Yeah.
after watching it how many times?
Yeah.
There's just no. There needs to be some sort of definitive answer. The players won't be mad if Mike Dean had gone back and said, right, it's accidental, play on. There'd have been no protest whatsoever. The protests were from both sides, if anything, for sending Souček off. Or, as I say before, if the camera angles aren't there, then the ref can't really give anything as it's inconclusive information. That's just the facts. But I think referees are just I think the referees are protected in that they can. It seems to me as a fan that they can go to a game, ref it on their terms, and then just leave like nothing had happened. They still get paid.
I was all going to bring up do you think it's more of an aspect of English ref, like in the English Premier League refs as well? Because if you look at other countries doing, like Australia, we've mentioned, they've got it down to a T. And I think in the Champions League and Europa League, they've got it spot on nearly every time I watch them games around VAR. Obviously, a lot of the refs now, like go back to a few years ago with the likes of, obviously, like Howard Webb, etc., when he's a ref. That was sort of our pinnacle of English ref. We dominated in Europe. But now you see a lot of these French, Spanish refs where they've been using it for a while in their countries. They've got it down to a T. Do you think it's more of an aspect as well that our refs are not really that interested in this technology and they don't want to admit they're wrong in certain decisions?
I think it is really with them. It's one of those things with them. I think are we trying too hard of getting this too perfect for VAR? I'm not sure, but it's one of those, it's just bloody stupid. With them, with refs, obviously when they put the match report in afterwards, do they get any fines after that? If they've done something wrong, I'm not sure.
Pass. I wouldn't know about fines.
I think
they must
there was
get reviewed.
But yeah, it's. I think Jamie Carragher and Gary Neville did something.
I was going to say.
Yeah, so they were challenged as a linesman. There was a couple of players and they were to flag for onside or offside, obviously, and they had to judge it for themselves. And then that was the sort of, I think, giving insight to the sort of football fan how hard it is to officiate a game, which I concur. It is really hard. You've got a lot of stuff going on. But anyway, carrying on. So they didn't mention it too much, but they said if it's been in so many instances. A Chelsea game pops to mind. There was a player that was flagged offside when he was onside and he went and scored, disallowed goal. They have to put a report in stating what the situation was, why they gave the decision they made. And I think, if I'm not wrong, in a way of they had to say why they were wrong and how they could have done it differently. So, not that I know what there might be, but there was no talk of fines or anything. I think it's just a self-reflection.
I suppose it's one of those things as well. Obviously, where it's so high profile, they must be getting watched all the time and examined.
Yeah, I think I want to say it's Dermot Gallagher is in charge of the refs now. I think he was at the time when that documentary is coming out, and I think if anyone hasn't seen that, it is a really good documentary. I think it's on Sky Sports on their catch up things. But I think, like you said there, I think no disrespect to the referees or anything. You know how hard their job is. I think that sort of highlights it to people who thinks it's easy being a linesman or whatever it is. It isn't. Them decisions, you literally have a split second to try and work out if he's onside or offside. And I think this is the thing it comes down to is VAR is meant to bring clarity on decisions. At the moment, it's not. In the simplest terms, it is causing more of a headache in the Premier League. And I can understand why you got players coming out saying their disapproval of things like that. But how would you say, what is the ultimate solution to getting around this and sorting this out in the Premier League?
Because weren't we, the first year we did VAR, weren't we doing our own rules and then we went into the European after that?
Yeah.
What I see of is a lot better in Europe than I can think of, obviously, if they take note of what they're doing, but it's never going to be perfect. And I think if we make it too perfect, we will completely ruin the game. But mistakes like this, obviously, what were happening, are not exactly great at the moment, are they?
No, I think like there is.
I
I don't expect it to be perfect. I think, like you said, some aspect of football is always them tiny mistakes that change a game. I think they've still got to somewhat be there, but you can't have incidents where a player on the pitch has said, well, the person in the who's the foul said it wasn't a foul, yet the player's still getting sent off. It's childish in a way. You can't be having that.
Because two of the things as well, obviously that one with Man United when the final whistle went, and then they brought it back for the penalty.
Yeah.
And then obviously the Van Dijk one when obviously it was called offside, so that's why he didn't do anything about it. But then said obviously a couple of months later that he should have sent him off.
I think, like you said, that mentioned that's Michael Oliver involved with the Van Dijk thing. I think there's been so many of them this season where we could have gone on for countless incidents. I was just trying to pick, I'll say, the more easy ones because they've happened in the last week. But I don't know. I think it's one. Do you think as well? Sort of an aspect is, do you think the fans will ever truly accept it?
Do you want to go, Tom?
Yeah, I mean, from a fan's point of view, let's imagine fans are still going to the games, right? Well, unfortunately, I am an Arsenal fan, but if I was to buy a season ticket, right, just put it into perspective, I have to wait 67 seasons to get my season ticket. I have to pay around £2,000 for my ticket, and that is only for home games. That's half the season and whatever cups we're in. So I wait those 6-7 years, go to the game, first game, we get cheated out of a win. You know, there's the reason I think the Premier League's struggling at the minute is because of the amount of attention it gets. It's, you know, as I say, I've mentioned in a podcast on it before, the rights for the Premier League go for around £6 billion a season. So the amount of pressure that, you know, it's the most watched league in the world. And there's a rant from Charlie Austin when he was at Southampton, where he felt that the officials got it wrong against, I believe it was Watford, if I'm not wrong, saying, help get these officials help. We're the most watched league in the world. Give them all the help they need. Give them all the help they need. And as I say, for a fan, I would be extremely frustrated because, as I say, you've got three categories for VAR. It's a yes, no, inconclusive. And the thing is that we're not. It's a bit like the COVID rules. They're just making them up as they go along. You know, I can. You know, it's ridiculous. There's no. As I say, we're repeating ourselves quite a lot, but there's no clarity. So as a fan, you know, the official is always pressure. But in football, you know, you're taught from a young age, get in the ref's head, and then, you know, blah blah blah. If he makes a bad decision, you know, man. And I'm talking at, you know, under 14, under 15 level. If a referee makes a bad decision, he gets a load of abuse. Like I did last season, I helped out one of my next door neighbours. I refereed an under 9s game of football, and I stopped the game because a lad had twisted his ankle, and there was a team that were through on goal. Anyways, a dad started shouting at me, giving me abuse. And I just went over to, I just went over to him. I said, what are you, it's a game of football. If your lad went down and twisted his ankle,
You would want me to stop the game.
You would want me to stop the game. But, you know, as I say, in rugby, it's sir, sorry, sir, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I understand. One more, you know, when they say, you know, classic line, one more and you're off. They mean it in rugby. The referee is you know, superior.
I think it's the only sport left in the world where they call the official by sir.
Yeah, but that's if you see it, it's from the bottom up.
Yeah, and that's the
youth.
way. And I think like you ref under. I used to ref some games, etc. But I wouldn't ever ref a game again now because the amount of abuse you get, it just isn't worth the time or day. And I think full credit to the people who do go into refs. And I think in a few weeks' time we do have a referee, an ex-referee, coming on here. So I think we'll bring up the VAR, chat to him again, and see his opinions on it. But
yeah,
it's one of them that. Well, I think you and me mentioned it is. And I think you said it is, should a referee face a press conference after a game?
It's one of those. I don't think you'd be able to. After the managers and the players done it, do you really want to watch a ref say what he's done all game?
But as for me as an Arsenal fan, go back to the incident where Leno and Louise got sent off. I would want to hear his thoughts as to what happened, because I think there's a lot of people also said up the Leno one. Could that really not have been a send off as well? Because it's very debatable. I think it was a red. I've seen a lot of people saying that it could have gone the other way, but
he was out the box. He denied a goal scoring opportunity. There was no one behind him, and he's played it with his arm.
I've had that, but obviously, the Louise one, I think a lot of people would like to have heard his thoughts, due to the fact that if you watch the replays back, which he would have done from VAR, to hear his thought and reason as to why he still upheld the original decision.
I think with that, obviously, I don't think they would let the referees do that anyway, would they? Because obviously they don't want them to blurt to say that they've actually done something wrong. I presume that's what they've done on BT Sports, haven't they, on the Saturday, where they bring a ref in to kind of talk about it through the game.
Mark Clattenburg does it quite a bit, I think.
Yeah.
I agree, but then I think it all goes back to the debate is if a player makes a mistake, he's instantly brought up on it by the media, etc., and he has to face all the consequences of the press. And I think I sort of mentioned is Timo Werner this year. The amount of stick he's been getting, and I think Tom, you mentioned it, even in his confidence not be that low and shot. Even in training, if he scores, the players are trying to hype him up. Think how that must be as a player, and obviously the mental health side of things like we discussed last episode, is I'm not trying to say the refs have got it easy, but in a way they do. They don't have to deal with this such pressure on them.
They don't
Yeah,
have
because
that.
if you... Oh, go on. No, I was just going to say, how many times do you hear? So we'll say there was a bad decision in the Arsenal-Aston Villa game.
Yeah.
Right, we lost 1-0. How many times do you go before the next? So we've got Leeds next. How many times do you ever hear someone go, "Oh God, awful ref last game"? It's never that, is it? You never hear anyone say, the ref had a shocker last game. It's not even brought up. It's the team lost. We've lost the game. Even if the referee had made a really bad decision, you look to the next game and you say, "Look, can we win this game?" And I know it's stupid to blame a loss on an official, and I'm not condoning that. But what I'm saying is like you said, Charlie, they have it. I think personally, they have it easy in terms of the game is done and dusted unless something stupid has been made. So if they make a few bad decisions, if a throw-in goes another way, if a foul's not given by the morning after, next game, done.
It's like that news is old news now. It's then I think obviously you mentioned the Arsenal Villa game is, I think a lot of the stick was on Cedric. Cedric made the mistake. It's constantly been brought up. We need a new left back to recover them. It's not what you say. The ref didn't have a bad game, but if he did, it would have been all over the news. Arsenal now looking for new left back cover, etc. Think how that affects the player in the long run as well. I can see Warren smiling. What's he thinking?
Obviously, just going back to that Werner thing, with refs, obviously, they haven't got that price tag over their head, have they, to perform. They're just going in and out each week, do their job, and like you said, it's done with until the next game.
I get you saying they're doing their job, but then the players doing their job as well. Sure, as an official in the Premier League, you should be held to the highest of standards, just the same way that the players are when they're elite players in the Premier League. Like you look at the officials in Championship, League 1, League 2, they could probably do equally a good job as them as well. There should be a set standard.
If you're obviously the way it works with football for players, obviously, is that the higher the league, the more money you're on. League 1, League 2. I'm basing off averages there. I don't have any statistics or anything. We'll say they get, I don't know, maybe 50, 60k a year. Obviously, in the Prem, some players are earning that weekly. And obviously, the refs, I believe, are on 6 figures, high 5 figures, low 6 figures. So
have you looked into how much a ref earns at that level?
I think, I'm really stabbing in the dark here. I believe it's between the 80 to 100.
Okay.
So if you look at it in context, if you've chosen to do that, you have to take the responsibilities with it. That's the way I see it. If you do make a bad decision at that high level of football, with the amount of pressure that it gets, you should be held accountable, because there should be some sort of, I don't know, briefing before or going forward. Because, you know, could you arguably say that Mike Dean wouldn't have received death threats if he came out afterwards and admitted that he made the wrong decision? Controversially, maybe.
I agree with that. I think it's a hard one to say, and I think, like we said, we don't condone the death threats in any way. No person.
Yeah, no time. No.
But like I said, I think it's one of them ones that I think it's like, if you just come out and admit to your mistake, then yeah, I think people will understand it. Admittedly, you cocked up. Everyone does. You're human. That is part of being a human. You make mistakes. Mm-hmm. But if you come out and have, I'll say, like the balls to admit it, then you're gonna. I think the biggest stigma as well, it had to be Mike Dean involved in all this. I think any Premier League referee, he seems to be involved in any sort of drama or etc. I don't know if that's doesn't really help him in these ways, that he's an easy target. I think we always bring up players. Mike Dean is an easy target as a referee now. And I think Michael Oliver has had his fair share of shtick as well. It's a hard one to say.
I would like to ask, though, obviously I know I'm a guest, so if I'm out speaking myself, just cut it out in the edit. But if you are watching this and you've got this far and listened to me waffling for this long, thank you. But if you would leave in the comments, do you think referees should have to face the media after the game? Because I'll be really interested to see people's thoughts and opinions on it.
I think a lot of people probably would say yes.
I think so. I think it's an interesting one. It is an interesting one.
Purely because of the fact, if you're in the Premier League, you've got that responsibility. You know, I think, as you say, Champions League and Europa League, you don't really need it because they've got it spot on every time.
And I think it sums up. I think even the one that stands out to me, I don't think it was last season, but the season before, when you had the City versus Tottenham game, when Sterling scored that goal in, I think it was like the 97th minute, and they got it spot on because he was offside, and they got that decision down to a T. That obviously, I think it broke a lot of freaking people's heart. I think if anyone likes football, watch the two semi-finals that year, which I think it was it Ajax and Tottenham as well. Probably the best semi-finals I've ever seen in a long time. But the official,
it was that bad with Ajax. When they were about to print the paper saying Ajax had gone through, and then Lucas Moura scored the goal, absolutely fuming.
But like the officiating at that level is, but then again, it's free and it's UEFA that's involved in that. And obviously, I think UEFA are a bit more stricter and everything on the levels. And I think that is the way it should be done in the Premier League as well. That level of officiating is, they have a set tier of referees that are allowed in their games, and they base that on the amount of decisions got wrong.
Yeah, they should do. It must be that. I take it they have the set amount of referees each year, mainly the ones they've used the previous year. Maybe kind of like Premier League darts, where you've obviously had to be informed to be picked for that season as such for it.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting is the intake of referees that are coming up at the moment. Are they not up to standard? I think we mentioned earlier, I think the pinnacle for us was a good few years ago. You had the likes of Mark Clattenburg, Howard Webb, etc. These were all English referees in the Premier League as well. I think Mark Clattenburg was a World Cup final referee.
Yeah.
I think Howard Webb's done the World Cup final as well, I believe. That's the standard I think people want to see.
I mean, as I say, I think if the Premier League want to develop the officiating, I think it was mentioned earlier, they need to look into other sports. Sort of going off into another sport, if you look at Wimbledon, how many times do you ever see people like a Wimbledon official make a mistake? Everyone has their set job. There's about, I think, so you've got the two people that watch the lines, you've got the ball boys and boy girls, and you've got the umpire. You know, if you argue with if you argue with the official, you get a warning. If you do it again, then you're gone. You know, it's so well done. And again, another sport with technology and that can give you decisive information.
Yeah.
No, there's not enough being done. You know, the whole thing with football, you know, obviously it's a massive competition, but as it moves now into a business, Charlie, obviously the amount of times we've heard that at uni, you know, we'd have had a mansion by now. But but like, you know, it is a business. It is a business. And, you know, it's going to the point now where ex-pros, Jamie Carragher, are saying on air, by the way, that it's ruining the game. You know, there doesn't seem to be any change or address that, you know, this is gonna change, and this is potentially what we have to deal with now. I mean, it's already bad enough that the grassroots game is gone for now, and you know, so people are more entitled to watch football, but you know, when they see this, they just think, what's the point?
Like you said there, football is a business. If you want a clearer club case of what football and business do, look at Arsenal Football Club. That is really one of the clearest cases I've ever seen in my life of what I'll say. You know, I think you've done the full time, you only done 1 year. It sums it up there of what football and when business collide becomes.
I think they allowed that they were going to sort of bid on 75k a year.
It says it all. It says it all. It really does.
It's the clearer case of the ways. If you look at the way we are structuring internally, everything like that. I think it's one of them. I think Tom's very much like me. When you went to uni, you study, you look at all these clubs, and you sort of see it from a business point of view as well now. And obviously, for people who are just a genuine fan, they probably have no interest in that. Mm-hmm. Like you said, it is killing the game because it is becoming more of a business. And I think if we're not careful, it's going to become very much like the NFL. As much as I like watching American football as well, it's a franchise. It's not a club anymore. They call themselves franchises.
Yeah, but if you look, I mean, two words for business: Manchester City.
Yeah.
But you know what? I think everyone gives them stick. Fair play to Sheikh Mansour, because he's done a lot more than just Man City. He's built up a whole neighbourhood as well, like around.
Of course, but again, you could controversially say, how can you go from having Richard Dunn at centre back to one season to Vincent Kompany? It doesn't just happen overnight.
True.
Do you know what I mean? You know, their first big signing was Robinho for 32 million.
Yeah,
they have Danny Mills playing at left back. It doesn't add up.
But I think the difference, in my opinion, to that side of things is not saying I'm a Man City fan of him, but it's you look at the difference between, I'll say, the two aspects of business ways. Chelsea of Roman Abramovich, where I'll say he come in and he just pumped billions into the club, and there's not really done a lot around, I'll say, supporting Chelsea, the area. He hasn't done anything that side of things unnotable that I can see. Whereas you look at Man City, Mansour, he's built a whole new academy. They've got everything like that, first team training ground, everything that is access, and they're building their academy up.
Have you ever been there? Sorry to interrupt you. Have you ever been there, either of you?
I am.
It is mental.
And I think dedication, when I went, because obviously I've got a lot of Manchester family as well, they're a City fan, so I've been on a tour around it, and obviously you could, when you go inside their museum, they've got a whole open plan of everything they want to do. It's a club run as a business, but they're doing it very well. And then when you look at the way Arsenal are doing it, we're doing it completely backwards. When we're just pumping money out of the club from selling players, and it's all going into Stan Kroenke's club, the Los Angeles Rams' club in America.
I mean, yeah, it's like what was it the other day? We've haven't we sold something like 8 players on a free? We've got no money for them.
Obviously, like Ozil, how much was he? 42 million.
300 grand a week.
We lost Ramsey. I think that's an episode we could do. We can ramble on about them three. A bit more.
That needs to be an entire episode. Arsenal Football Club. I'll be honest with you.
The downfall of Arsenal Football Club. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I mean, Warren will be in a full Liverpool kit for that one. Yeah.
But Tom likes to know. I like to throw a spanner of a question in at the end of every episode when you're.
Yes.
I think Warren wanted to sort of do this as well, because we done an episode a few weeks ago of our prediction of the top 4 for this season. I think we might need to change it, because I think we both had City as nowhere near when this was a time of year, because they were essentially
awful.
where they've now won, I think, 14 on the bounce in all competitions. So, Tom, your top 4 this season.
Oh, God. City, country mile. Does it have to be in order?
If you want it to be.
Oh.
It's not that much harder, Tom.
No, well, yeah, it's 1 to 4, and I'm struggling, yeah. Right, City to win the league.
Yeah.
Do you know what? Leicester.
Second.
Yeah. United third.
Okay.
Fourth. I can't see Villa being this consistent throughout the season. They've not been the best lately, other than they beat us. I reckon Liverpool can nick top 4.
Okay.
Every team has a bad, a bad, a bad stint.
Soon, don't we? With the new signings we've got, so hopefully things turn out a bit more differently in the next couple of games.
The Kabak you signed is an absolute steal. He is an unreal player.
To be honest with you, I've heard of him, but I've not heard anything about him.
Been tracking him for the last couple of years. I've looked at his. He's been in a bit of a awful Schalke team this season, I brought this up a
few weeks ago about Schalke was on very close to breaking like the Bundesliga record ever in like 150 years for the most losses on the bounce.
Yeah.
For a club like Schalke, it's a bit of a shock because they've got a few years ago they had like Neuer was there and going to the Champions League and stuff.
A perfect deal for us. Obviously, we've got an option to buy if we want, which I think they put that in to see if he does all right, we'll keep it. If he doesn't, then we'll start spending big on Upamecano in the summer. So we did a brilliant job of getting that deal. The other one, Davies, I haven't really seen, to be honest.
I can't say much about him.
He's supposed to be a ball-playing defender, but how much he'll play? Because they were saying about they didn't want to go big at the moment because it was Reece Williams and Nat Phillips. They wanted them to start progressing in the club, but by the end of the season, I expect that won't be the case. They'll just spend money.
Yeah. Wazza, top 4.
City, Accrington Stanley. I think probably Man United.
Second.
Well, that hurt, didn't it? That hurt.
Third, Leicester. Fourth, Liverpool.
I think mine's going to be the same as yours was. I think City, then United, Leicester, and Liverpool. I think United are doing well, but I don't think they got enough in the locker.
It's been a bit of a weird season, hasn't it, really, with ups and downs, especially with Liverpool being at the top, and then for it to completely change around. Man United actually pulling their finger out for once.
Bruno Fernandes.
He's decent, he is, but if they didn't have him, I don't think they would be where they are. And
they'd be mid-table.
And if they keep relying on saying, "Oh, Pogba's one of the best midfielders in the world," they got another thing coming, really, and think they need to get their head checked.
He's had more haircuts than he scored goals.
Last question, Tom. Where are we finishing this season as in Arsenal?
Arsenal? Don't know. Somewhere between 7th and 20th, to be honest. Do you know what? Top half. I don't know, mate. Like, honestly, I reckon between... I think top 6 is out of the question, unless we go on, like, when I say a run, I mean we just don't stop losing.
Yeah.
Don't stop winning, sorry. I think we'll come between 7th and 10th this season. I really do.
I think we'll be about.
And yeah, I mean, if I hear one more, give Arteta time, blah blah blah. He's had 2 transfer windows.
He's
right?
not a fan anymore.
It's hard, isn't it? I mean, we've got so much deadwood.
And
You know, we're a sinking ship. It's like, you know, when you just see like I don't know, someone on a boat just get sweeping up the water and chucking it in the sea. That's us at the minute. We've got so many crap players just
I think
wandering around.
I was saying this to a few work meets about this. Is I'm a big fan of Arteta still. I think I wanted him before we got Emery, and I've said don't judge him until next summer. This window, I think for us, we've had an absolute blinder. Arguably, we let a lot of players go for cheap and like Ozil for free, but we've cleared a lot of wages out that we weren't using because we couldn't afford it. If the summer we go out, and I think him and Adu are getting a plan together now of how we can strategize this correctly, and if Kroenke is willing to back him, we need to spend, I'd say, on 3 or 4 players.
Yeah, that's the biggest cog in the work, if Kroenke's going to back him.
But if he did...
So what are they basing the money-wise on a defender? Because you know,
4 million for a defender, 2 for a midfielder, and 3 for a striker.
Yeah, they're basing it off a Sun fantasy team. We've got more, like, you know, it's like Pepe. Oh yeah, we'll pay you £5 and a pack of hobnobs a week just to keep him for 72 million. It'll take us 65 years to pay him off. You know, it's a joke.
Oh, well, I think for this week we'll wrap it up. But you know what? I think we'll have Tom back on. I think we'll do an Arsenal special. I think Warren will. But we'll do a full in-depth review of Arsenal Football Club. Where we go?
The Peter Crouch perfect hat trick against you.
There's a lot that could be said. I think we could do about a 4-hour special for that one.
Yeah, mate. I seriously, I've never really sort of came on here. I really enjoy it. It's good. Get me back.
Good.
Justice for Tom.
But for this week, thank you very much, Tom, for coming back on. I think you're going to see a lot more of him on the show. We love having him on here. Hopefully you think it's the same. But thank you all for the support. As usual, the socials are below. Tom's socials will be in there. Go hit him out and get him up to 250 followers. His prize will be announced shortly. As usual, if you're a fan of FIFA, etc., get over on our Twitter. Warren, who is running the page, does I think about 4 giveaways a week at the moment. It's amazing for you lot. You're getting 3 freaking FIFA points, and I can't pack nothing at the moment.
Yeah, Warren, sort me out. Hey, I've been pretty tweeted every one.
But I think there'll be a bit more FIFA content coming. We all play it. So if you guys want to see some FIFA content, let us know. We can
episode on Foot Champs, please.
What, live streaming us playing it? Yeah. Not
that, or just talking about the actual A's. It's awful.
And the 5-3-2 meta it's out at the moment, yeah. But anyway, thank you all, and we'll see you guys next week.